I'm a big supporter of Social Security. I think people who have paid in deserve to get their retirement benefits out. The way we can make it sustainable is to increase the cap on wages for the withholding. It's not fair that people with lots of money don't pay more in withholding. And I also want to make sure that we root out the fraud in Social Security, and I've sponsored legislation to do that.
So the first question is, what fix to shore up Social Security would I support in my first term in office? I think it's important to realize that by 2032, Social Security is going to become insolvent. So I would be interested in learning about what kind of ways that we can make sure that we still provide the benefit that people depend on and they bought into. That's something a debt owed, but we have to look at something fundamentally of how we look at doing Social Security differently. So anything that we can do that maintains and protects what people are getting, but providing solvency is what I would support. So there are more than 40 million Americans care for older parents, siblings, children, and adults. And I know firsthand experience. My sister did that for my parents that were elderly and they were sick. I will absolutely support anything that's out there to support family caregivers. I don't know how that would manifest itself, whether it's a tax break or something about that nature. But we have to do something. That's a cost that's being borne by the families, and anything we can do to provide that kind of support for those caregivers, I absolutely would support.
Well, I was a family caregiver myself with my father for my mother, Susan McLean, who had Alzheimer's disease. I've supported new legislation for family caregivers in the Veterans Administration to be paid. If you're at home caring for a vet, you will now be paid for those services. And I would support extending that to our Medicare population and family members with disabilities. Congress has delegated a lot of the responsibility about tariffs to the executive branch. But my concern with President Trump is he's been too erratic in the way he approaches trade and tariffs. So I want to make sure we have more congressional oversight. And most importantly, Congress will vote on our trade with Canada and Mexico and any other agreements that we might enter into.
The question is, what is the role of Congress in levying tax tariffs and why? I think anytime the United States is bound by a tariff or a treaty, I think Congress has a role in it. If you're going to bound the United States and those tariffs and issues are part of what we're doing as an American public, I think that's the role of the legislature to do that. So if there are tariffs that are out there that are dealing with international entities and foreign countries, I think Congress needs a role to make sure that it's something that's in the right benefit and the right spirit of the American people. you know, keeping kids safe and safe from gun violence is a topic that's on a lot of people's minds, and it isn't cyclical all the time. It's something that I understand, and I believe they should be addressed. I believe, quite frankly, it isn't an instrument issue; it's a mental health issue, and we need to have a better understanding as to why somebody feels that that's their only way of dealing with the situation, whatever they're dealing with. I was just in a meeting up here at Dartmouth Hitchcock, and we talked about mental illness, and I think that's really the crux. That's the genesis of what that is, and I think we need to do a better job of identifying, understanding, and providing care for people that are dealing with mental illness.
We can improve programs for mental health for students in our schools. I think that's a really important goal. Obviously, we can make physical improvements and make sure that anyone entering a school has an ID and is authorized to be there. But I believe we can do more. We can do background checks for gun owners. Responsible gun owners in New Hampshire care about keeping our schools safe, and they would welcome background checks. Congress can definitely do more to create pathways for successful lives for middle class families. You know, here in New Hampshire, families are working so hard, and the burden of their education and cost of job training is really difficult. So I've worked with our community colleges to improve access to skills. I want to work with our labor unions on apprenticeships, and I want to make sure that college is affordable and accessible for every New Hampshire family.
So the question about what can Congress do to help the middle class, I think you're seeing it with this tax break. You know, to look at the take-home pay is up 6% right now with this tax package, and I think that's helping those folks. You know, that people that were making 54,000 and now they're making 57,000, and that's almost $3,300 in take-home pay. So I think we are doing those things for the middle class. I think we have to continue those, make sure that those tax cuts become permanent. At the same time, we shouldn't forget about reducing the debt. So I think we've already doing some great strides in making things to help the middle class. So, New Hampshire's received federal funding to help fight the opioid issue, and the question was which federally funded programs are working. I don't know the answer to that, but I do know is that right now I am doing roundtables out there with folks. I did it in Nashua, we did it in Salem, we're up in Lebanon today to talk to those folks to figure out what are the things that are working. Are the federal dollars that are coming in, are they put to the right place and the right resources? So, we have to look at what the end result is, and then we can answer the question as to what's working. But at least we have to have an ability to understand and talk to the folks that are on the front lines dealing with this every day, so we know which way to better utilize the federal dollars.
One of the biggest issues I've been working on is making sure that we have support to end this opioid epidemic here in New Hampshire. I'm proud of the federal funding that we've brought to increase access to treatment, specifically in the North Country, the building of Friendship House in Bethlehem, and here in the capital region in Franklin with Farnham North. But we can do so much more. We've got to give law enforcement the tools that they need, and we've got to increase access to treatment and long-term recovery for families suffering from substance use disorder.